What's up, everybody, and welcome to another Seven Figure Photographer Live. I'm excited to be here with you today, and I'm excited to talk about today's topic. Um, this topic actually comes from a lot of, I guess, deep thinking this weekend. I've actually been working on a bunch of stuff, and so how I even had the time to be in deep thought, I don't know, but that's where this is coming from today, and I'm excited to share it with you. Let's start out with a quote. A successful man or woman is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks others have thrown at him or her. That is from David Brinkley, and it's kind of an interesting thing because we're gonna get into the topic of evaluating your business foundation, but it kind of sounds almost a little bit churchy. Like, I get it. Everything has a foundation, and it's important for everything to have a solid foundation for it to continue to exist. But we're not going to go down the church rabbit hole. We're just going to stick with business today. And before we do that, let's have a quick little intro. What's up, guys? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Marvin, and I have been in the photography industry for 25 plus years. While I love being a creative, business is my passion, and elevating the industry of photography is my focus. I created the Seven Figure Photographer to share my journey to seven figures and to help others find their way too.
That's amazing.
All right, so for those of you who are new here or haven't watched before, or if you received a text message letting you know about this, please make sure to log into YouTube specifically or open the app in order to be able to chat. But for those of you that are here and that have been hanging out with us before, please make sure to comment. Let us know where you're watching from or who you are. We don't see who's here unless you comment, so important information to share. So I want to tell you a little story. We've all heard like the stories about like the three little piggies, the Bible stories or church stories about the man who built his house upon a rock, whatever. Like, we're not going to get into that. So I was like, what stories can I share that kind of have, obviously you guys already know this, like you already understand the importance of a strong foundation. But I want to tell you a story about this house that here in Boise, we used to go up and shoot up on a hill above the city, which was called, well, now I can't even think of the name of it. Table Rock. And up there were these beautiful homes. There's this one road up the kind of like the top highest point, almost highest point, and we would drive down the road. And a couple of years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, there was this house that was being built, and it was a doctor building the house, and the house was absolutely incredible. It was massive. It had a pull-through like breezeway. It had everything. It had the patinaed copper roofing, which was absolutely beautiful and everything. And all of a sudden, one day, the ground gave out underneath it, and it slipped off the mountain, and the house was completely rendered useless. So a house is only as valuable as the foundation it sits on. And so that's something to keep in mind with your business, because really, if you don't have a strong foundation in your business, you stand the chance of losing everything at some point in time. And I can attest to this because I've struggled with this at times in my business on many occasions. And it's one of those things that I think we kind of forget to really take into consideration what the cause of it is. So, like I said, why are we talking about this? Last week's video about maximizing efficiency kind of spurred some new things in me. It really generated some interesting thought. And I was kind of like, we took a piece of paper, we wrote down the 8 things on the piece of paper, and we kind of did the little happy face, sad face, or meh face. And I was like, you know what if I could make this easy for people to do? And so I actually created a form. You can actually go to the website and get your BES. So that's your business efficiency score, is what I've titled it. And you can go on there. It's 8 different categories, the same categories we talked about in the video. In fact, above the business efficiency score is the video from last week. And basically it asks you 3 questions from each of the categories, and then it provides you a percentage score. So what percentage of your business is efficient out of 100%? And so it's really interesting, but it also shows you kind of where you stand 0 out of 10 on a scale for each one of those different categories. And so it kind of like started making me think, I was like, okay, well, this is like really a cool thing, because what it allows me to do is it allows me to look at people's businesses, if they want me to look at their businesses and identify where they're struggling, where their struggles are at. And oftentimes, we find the most common ones really kind of come down to one thing. So ultimately today we're going to talk about 4 elements of business. And I was really thinking about this. I was like, okay, for me, I really thought that it was kind of more so about 3 elements of business, but we all know that like you can have a sturdy, like a stool with 3 legs, but everything is better when you have 4 different points, unless it's on uneven ground. And I think that that's kind of a valuable lesson all in itself. So today we're going to talk about 4 elements or foundational elements of your business. And we're just going to talk about a couple of the different things that I want you to consider when looking at your business, because ultimately that's the goal here. Look at your business, identify where the weak spots are, and figure out how we're going to fix them. So, and that comes down to a lot of different things. But so how do we identify the problem? Well, think about in your business, what's the one most pressing problem right now in your business? And what's the one thing that would make the most impact if you could change it? Okay. And just to give you some ideas, like some of the things, like I hear this all the time from photographers or from people like, oh, well, my location just doesn't really support that kind of money, or I just can't get people in the door, or the people that I get are all balking about why do I sell pictures when all they want is digitals, and the economy sucks, or my clients are always angry at me. And all those things, like the number one thing I could tell you is without question, first take the responsibility on yourself. So if you can't get people in the door, like what is it about yourself that is causing this? So one of the most empowering things you could ever do in your life is to take responsibility. And this is something I really, really try hard to hit home with my son, and try to push hard with him to get him to understand that you can't blame everything on everybody else. And it doesn't really help. Honestly, it really makes you feel like crap when you blame things on other people. So take responsibility, because when you take responsibility, then you are the one in control of the problem, and you are the one that can fix or change the problem, because we are the only people we can change. We can't change other people. I mean, we can, but it's a lot harder. So think about it. What is the most pressing problem in your business? And what's the one thing that if you could fix it, if you could change it, your business would be so much better? And we're going to talk about those things. So, of course, last week I shared with you the quote from Mike McCallix in his book, Fix This Next. And the quote was, the biggest problem business owners have is that they don't know what their biggest problem is. And so if we can really look at it and evaluate these things, then and determine what our actual biggest problem is, then we can fix it. And there's more to that. So number one, so I said we're going to talk about 4 pillars. Number one, and I'm going to go backwards because the most important one is coming, but we're going to leave that for last, the best for last. So number one, a business is not going to exist without customers. Well, I mean, it can exist. In fact, a lot of photographers exist without customers. And it's a sad thing. We all build these amazing businesses, beautiful brands. We have beautiful work, but we sit behind a computer at home and we don't ever generate leads or generate people or customers. And so naturally, one of the things that you are going to struggle with in this business is if you don't have customers, you don't have much of a business. And the dominoes kind of fall all downhill when you don't have customers. But not just customers, the right customers. This is one of those things I hear from a lot of people. Well, People in my area don't spend money like that. And this isn't like just all about sales, but it's really about where you're servicing or where you're appealing to your target clients. If you know that your target client is somebody that's wealthy, has only 1 to 2 children, and lives in a specific neighborhood and drives a specific car, and you've got their avatar all dialed in, but yet you're spending time at the, I can't think of a good example. I always use the examples of shopping stores or whatever. But, if you're looking for that type of client and you're spending all your time at the dollar store, you're probably not going to find those clients very well. I think I've even kind of alienated my own wife from going to the dollar store because I talk so crappy about the dollar store, and she's like, oh, I wouldn't ever be caught dead in there anymore. And, so anyway, it's not a bad thing. You can go to the dollar store. James Wood, welcome. Glad to have you here. So within customers, you really need to focus on relationships. Do you have good relationships with your customers? And do you have good communication with them? Without those things, you're going to churn through customers. And customers are hard to get in the first place, but they're easier to keep than they are to get. So figure out how to not only create good relationships with them, to communicate with them, but to generate loyalty with those customers. Because again, without customers in your business, there's not much business there. So what are you doing to acquire them? And I think that this is one of those challenges that, I see this with photographers so much. They just are waiting for business to come. They're waiting for referrals to happen. And I'm sorry, but when I spend as much time working in and on my business, I'm not going to sit around and wait for other people to talk about my business or to generate business for me. I'm going to go out there and get it myself. And so what are you doing to acquire those customers? And I'm not going to go into that a whole lot more. Really plain and simple. Create good relationships with your customers. Communicate well with them. I've talked about this in the customer journey, like gifting and all those different things. And then obviously figure out how to get them. So that's really an important thing. Now, number 2, this is actually the fourth pillar that I added, or fourth key element, I guess we'll call it, to your evaluating your business foundation. And that is processes. Because realistically, your processes are going to affect your relationships with your clients. If you have terrible processes, you're going to have upset clients. If you have terrible processes in communication, your clients are going to feel like they don't understand what's going on. I understand processes, and they literally live in every aspect of your business. There's a process for everything. I walk into my studio every day, and there's a process for how I flip the light switches on. It's more of a routine than a process, but they kind of go hand in hand. And when you can create processes that work with your daily routines, they become stronger. But really, what are processes, and how do you identify them or define them? And so I don't know where this comes from, but there's what's called the DMAIC or DMAIC, which is a DMAIC, and it stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. So number 1 there, the one most important part of that is to define your processes. Write them down or figure out a way to identify those things, define them, and then define the things that you can measure. How can you determine how well these processes are working, and then how can you improve them? So there's one thing that I wanted to share that I think really helps, because I think that this is one of those things that is probably one of the most powerful things you can do for your business. And in this whole process of define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, what are you going to use this process on? And in the beginning, we talked about what is the problem? What's the pain point in your business that's hurting the most right now? Or what's the one thing that you could do right now that would make the biggest impact in your business? whether it's, whatever it is. And there's a little rule called the 5 whys. And this is basically like when you identify a problem, ask yourself why. Why is that a problem? And then ask yourself that why again. And so basically it goes like this. For instance, my customers are always mad at me. Okay. Well, why? I don't know. They're just jerks. Well, why? Well, because they're mad that I haven't gotten stuff done and to them. Well, why? Well, because I can't afford it. Well, why? So do you see where it's going? And ultimately what it does is it dials in on what the true problem is. And in that particular situation, it's finances. And when you understand that, you can control it, you can fix it, you can analyze it, and you can improve it altogether. So ask yourself why again, and again. Now, like, honestly, that's one of those that, like, I think so many photographers struggle with. We have a tendency to try to generate, or I'm sorry, I'm kind of backing up there. We have a tendency to try to, I completely lost my train of thought there. Fix the problems of product with new sales. And so I'm going to kind of talk about that here more. I got mixed up because I don't want to jump too far forward. But that's actually my number 3, or the third element of this foundation check. And that's sales. Without sales, you're not going to generate finances or business, or really anything for your business. You have to have sales. All too often, and this is the part where I kind of just got all hung up because this is the thing I wanted to share. All too often, many of us have a tendency to pay for old sales with new sales that we're getting. So we get into this mindset that we have to make more sales, or we have to get bigger sales, or we have to get new sales. And oftentimes we're doing that and we're chasing that because what we're trying to do is we're trying to pay for the sales that we've already made because of one of the biggest problems that we have. And so more money won't always change the way you manage it. You have to fix the problem. And so more sales is not always going to fix that. But sales are important, and it doesn't matter if you have the biggest sales. It doesn't matter if you have, all these things, what your minimum or your average is. All those things don't matter if you don't know how to control it. And so our fourth pillar and our last pillar is finances. And realistically, like, when you find every single one of these different pillars or different elements of your business, and you look at them, or you look at all the different problems, it oftentimes always comes back to the money. And you're going to find that by asking that question, why? And when you can ask that question, why, and you can identify what it is, and when you identify in your business that it's always coming back to the money, maybe that's the number one biggest thing that we have to fix. So money won't fix your problems unless you fix the money problems. Does that make sense? You have to fix how you handle the finances before the finances will fix the business, if you will. So you need to know, and there's a couple of different things. You need to know what it's going to take to make life happen. And I think that those are sometimes, like, that's probably the one thing that photographers do know is, like, I need to make X amount of dollars in order to survive. But that's about all the further they go. And realistically, are we really sitting down and evaluating what do we really truly need to make in order to make things happen? Number 2 is, I think it's really important to, and I'm terrible at this, but it's important. And I say I'm terrible at it, but in the reality, I'm really good at it. But that's pay yourself first. And if you haven't had a chance to read Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, go read that book. And the principles that are taught in there are really very simple. It's one of those books that you feel like it was written for you. You feel like it was written for photographers. Photography is one of those businesses. It's hard because you just don't know when money's coming in unless you've created systems that really are reliable in that aspect. But one of the first things that he'll tell you is pay yourself first. The concept with it is really just start with incremental changes. Start putting a little bit of money, and we're talking like 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, and build it up as you go from each sale. Just take it and put it away, and that will help you identify those things and pay yourself first. Understand your numbers. Like I've beat this dead horse like so many times. Cost of doing business per hour is so important for you to understand. Because if you don't understand what it costs to run your business, and then oftentimes what happens is you really just piss time away, and you don't understand how important it is that every time you pick up your camera, you've got to make a little bit of money, or every time that you do anything, you've got to make money. And so sometimes we spend time doing the things, and I am a culprit of this. I'm terrible about this. Doing things that I think, oh, I can do that because I can do things just as good as anybody else. Building websites, that's one of them. Like I keep building all my own websites, and honestly, I should just pay for somebody to do it. But it's easy to do, and it costs so much money to do it otherwise. So, lifestyle congruency. This is one where I am like the poster child for lifestyle congruency. Really looking at like, is the amount of money you're making, it's really the word or the term behind it is living beyond your means. Like that's really what it is. Is your lifestyle congruent with the amount of money you make or with the amount of money you expect to make? And that actually comes from Mike McCallowicz too, that term lifestyle congruency. I liked it personally better than the living within your means because that's just triggering. I don't know. But ultimately, determine, is your lifestyle outside of like the congruency of your business? Are you living this lavish lifestyle but yet making this pittance in your business? Like that's something you really got to consider. Like I said, read the book Profit First. I promise you, if you've never read it, it's one of the most like empowering books, and it will really help you with that. Ultimately, guys, what I'm trying to show you is that most of us have customers. Most of us have some sort of process, and most of us have the sales. So the one thing that we have to really look at and kind of dial back on is our finances. And if we can't fix that problem, then we have to be able to, sorry, somebody just walked in the door. If we can't fix that problem, then it's going to continue on, and it spills over into many other things. And so look at every problem you have, look at the challenges you have in your business, and ask yourself why, and continue to ask yourself why until you identify what is really the issue. And I think that honestly, to be brutally honest, I think in my business, it oftentimes runs right back to the finances. And it's not because I don't have the finances, it's because I manage it poorly. And that's really what it boils down to. And that, just comes from discipline. It's really just taking the time to make sure that the important things are taken care of, or that you're doing things in the right order, or creating processes or systems for how you do it. Have any of you ever considered, do you have a process for how you deal with your finances other than money just came in and let's spend it? Do you have a process for how that works? So anytime in your business, I want you to think about this. When you experience pain or discomfort in your business, take a look at the foundation and ask yourself why. Ask yourself why many times to identify what is the real problem. And this is, like I said, this is just one of those exercises that you can do to identify what the real problem is. This weekend when I was thinking about this, I was like, okay, well, how do I identify the problems in my business? This is one of the things that I love. This is one of the things I'm passionate about is problem solving. I can look at other people's businesses and identify the problem in seconds. If you fill out the BES score, I can look at it and say, okay, well, I know what you need in your business. But at the same time, like I just hadn't really looked at it and said, okay, well, the biggest issue always boils down, well, it doesn't always, but oftentimes boils down to the money. Like, why do I need to make more money? Well, because I like spending money. Like, that's kind of the problem. But if you can look at it and you can say, if I fix that problem, what would the rest of my business be like? It would actually fix a lot of the problems within my business by just focusing on finances. So that's something I urge you to do. Like, identify your problems. I'd love it if you guys commented or left a message. Like, in fact, that'll probably be one of my questions for today. What is the biggest problem in your business? And I got to check and make sure that's not one of the questions that I've already asked. But I'd love to see what you guys feel are your pain points. What are your problems? And not that I want to blast you or anything like that. But the goal here is to really be open about like, what are the problems and how can we fix them? Because that's kind of the whole point. And that's really where my focus in the 7-Figure Photographer is going, is focusing on those systems and processes as well as automation. How can you automate those things so that you can understand better? Oftentimes, like when you get into like customers or the finances, when you know what you need to make a year, then you understand, okay, well, if I need to make this much, that's typically, like 50 sessions or 100 sessions a year, based on what I typically average per session. And if I break it down, my lead conversion is 70%. And so that means I just need to get at least, we'll just say 50%. That means I need to get 100 leads in order to get 50 shoots. Okay. So then we know our focus is just getting leads. But then we also have to fix the other problems to make sure that they're all good. So I hope that was beneficial for you today. I know it was a faster one. I need to figure out a way to make these videos a little bit faster, not so drag on so much. I was trying to watch through a couple of them yesterday, and I was like, holy crap, these are long. Like, I wouldn't want to sit down and watch this much of me. So anyway, like I said, I hope that's beneficial for you guys. I hope you'll take the time to really evaluate the foundation of your business and identify, like, are you strong in all 4 of those pillars? I know that I have a lot of room for improvement on that one. And so you're not alone. Like, we all have to improve. We all have to change. So I hope you guys have a good week. I'll see you here, same place, same time next week. And peace out, Girl Scout. What's up, guys? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Marvin, and I have been